Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 20th of March, live on YouTube. First time as a 19-year-old tonight. It's going to be very interesting presenting a show, reacting to all the latest news. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach James for all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello.
Now, we're going to start off with my opening monologue as usual. Now, if you are a Russian citizen watching this show tonight, you will know exactly what your country is experiencing right now. They have unleashed war on Ukraine, now nearly a month in. Now, your president made quite simply a barbaric address to a crowded audience in the National Stadium in Moscow the other day, saying this special military operation, that you call it, was going down successfully. Well, in Ukraine, unfortunately, it is going down in the wrong direction. Many more buildings have been destroyed. Hypersonic missiles have been launched into your country in Ukraine right now. To all the people listening in Ukraine, there has been more casualties this week. I am sickened to see a man who quite simply says on national television in Russia, my operation that is going so well, actually, when you look at it, it's flawed from the beginning. Zach, what do you make of Vladimir Putin's barbaric address to the Russians just the other day?
Yeah, first of all, Charlie, you're right what you say. Secondly, yes, his barbaric efforts continue and continue for all the wrong reasons, unfortunately. He's still in the process of killing civilians. He's still process of producing mass casualties. He's still intent of destroying a democratic country. He got once again for the third and fourth week running. He's still acting really as a dictator, and that's not going to change anytime soon by the looks of it, Charlie. We know he had the other day. He had this massive, what looked like a rally, probably staged and faked, just so he could get a bunch of people on camera or anything like that, just to pretend that he got this support of people when he really hasn't, really, to be at the end of the day. And obviously celebrating the annexing of Crimea, the annexing of Donbass. I don't know why it's something to celebrate, Charlie, when, you know, if you think about it, it's made life hell. It allowed people under Russia separatist control to be living under a diktat. It's not a celebration, Charlie. It's a fascist show, really. What I saw the other day, it wasn't exactly great. State TV weren't covering itself in glory. But like once again, Charlie, I think we're seeing the heroics of Ukrainian people as always, the efforts of the worldwide community to help them out. It's still been a frantic few weeks, and the trouble is, Charlie, this is not going to stop anytime soon. Zelensky's called for peace negotiations because I think he's got the upper hand, really, to be fair, Charlie. Old Zelensky, because he's in, you know, his army's winning so far. And they're continuously winning. They've stopped Russia progressing in pretty much any major city. Whilst Russia's got Kherson still, they are still holding back. They still fail to advance in any other city now. And we're into the fourth week of what is, Charlie, supposed to be the Russia's victory, which, quite frankly, it still isn't. In that case. But yeah, so Zelensky is now calling for negotiations. And he has warned, he might be a bit over dramatic on this, that if the negotiations do fail, he said today, World War III could happen. I'm not sure he's going to slightly bit over dramatic on that one, or whether he really thinks so. Nevertheless, Charlie, it still remains a big problem as it is, because Russia failed to advance what they do. It appears their own people in their own country have got fed up with this a little bit as well. And I'm going to be nominating at the end of this some nice little bit of heroes that got caught with attention this week as well. So, yeah, they're not winning. They're still completely failing. And they're failing with absolute humility, Charlie. Still are. And they hopefully they continue to fail for as long as it needs to be. The total thing that does need to be required is they need to be out of the country. Negotiations need to happen, and quite frankly, Russia needs to lose.
And Zach, as well, I have to say, Putin's address the other day, it looked like he just won a massive election. Like, you see all these people crowded in. It was like he won an election. You see all these athletes wearing the Z on their uniforms. I must admit, if I was living in Russia right now, I wouldn't feel proud of that at all.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The thing is about that, Charlie, is it does not reflect what the people really think about their country. It really does not. It's a bunch of staged people probably forced on camera to look like they're showing support and everything like that. It's totally fake, staged rally and everything like that. They're just a bit of a camera roll, really. People literally laboured to be on camera. And yeah, it does look like a massive rally, but it looks like a failure. It looks like a rally that looks so staged that the EastEnders could be a soap drama, a more predictable soap drama than that. It really does. So what he's doing on stage, he's basically getting state TV to draw, basically show what looks like Putin's Russia. Everyone's supporting him. Well, no, it's just a bunch of people really going on camera, for the sake of going on camera. They don't really enjoy it, really, to be fair. They're just there for the cameras. They behind the scenes. They probably on camera it looks like yay, woo, and then off the camera, I thought it's like F this guy. It really does feel like that. And that's probably what you find out, really. To be fair, Russia's state TV will project it in one way. We can all project from the other. It looked like, from what I read, Charlie, that they may have doctored some footage, so it actually looked like it came from last year. I mean, 200,000 crowd ordered to attend. Ordered. That means that they've not gone there on their own accord, Charlie. They've been ordered to attend to look like they've basically go there. They've been ordered to. They've been, probably 15 years in prison if they probably don't, to be fair, because that's how blooming Russia rules these days. If you oppose us, you get prison time. Support us or face jail, really. That's what it's really about. But yeah, they're all the flags you probably can see. So I'll just get my picture out of the way because I'm watching something whilst I'm speaking to you. Z. Well, yeah, that's the so-called support is a couple of Russian flags, a bunch of Zs.
Yeah.
It reminds Z is the new Q, to be fair. It reminds me of that. It reminds me of the Q Catholics of, well, the QAnon, where the Q Fantics, where they all support the QAnon thing. By the way, if you wonder what that was, it's a bunch of people thinking the government's run a bunch of pedophiles, really, which obviously isn't true. It's a bit like this in Russia, really, where they put the Z outside. It's sort of support for the army or something like that. It's a terrible look. It's a terrible look. And it's obviously all so staged in support and everything like that. But then they're packing out a stadium which once hosted the World Cup final in 2018, Charlie.
Yeah. 4 years ago.
Well. 4 years ago. Yeah. So imagine turning to a football station into that pile of crap, really, to be fair, and staged so-called support for Putin. It really, yeah.
I have to say, Zach, I mean, I think this is to do with propaganda that Putin obviously wants to use to try and promote his war going into Ukraine. I do fear, and this article that I'm just going to announce right here for you, this British general, or former head of the British Army, says he can't rule out World War III over Ukraine as well. General Sir Mike Jackson, a former head of British Army, has told GB News on Alistair Stewart's show that World War III couldn't be ruled out. He said, according to this, the whole world was currently in uncharted territory, referring to the ruled out possibility of nuclear weapons could be used by the end of this century. Sir Mike, who led the army during the 2003 Allied invasion of Iraq, suggesting Moscow's actions meant the risk of nuclear weapons being deployed potentially increased. Both the Kremlin and members of NATO alliance, including the UK and the US, possesses nuclear missiles or nuclear weapons there. So I don't know. I mean, I watched this week on what's happening on the telly, the news on obviously the horrible bombings in Mariupol as well. Actually, this week as well, there has been reports of a school which actually got blown up by a Russian missile, and thousands of children got actually hundreds of children in the school actually were sent over to Poland as refugees as well. Zach, what have you made this week of Russia's destruction to buildings, particularly housing civilians?
Yeah, well, I have to say, Charlie, it's not. It's we knew that Russia was going to indiscriminately target civilians, and they're not wrong there. They're targeting schools, they're targeting buildings. Imagine targeting schools, for heaven's sake. That's where the people learn. The kids learn. They want to grow up to do what they want to do, and they all get their education from there. And then they're bombing the schools. That's just disgusting, Charlie. And we've seen some of the areas where this is sad and distressing, Charlie. But some of the areas where, like shelters, for example, Mariupol, they put there. There's a shelter bomb, like all these bomb shelters and everything like that, have been literally tried to destroy the front entry of them. And whilst people were in it, I mean, there's been some lucky people that have survived out of that. But there's also been, some that haven't. We've seen babies, Charlie, kids just get severely injured or even die. And it's a horrible, disgusting tactic that the Russians are using. It's a war crime, no doubt about it. And the likes of Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken have come out with that assessment, and they're right in saying that, to be fair, because they are war criminals, Charlie. He is a war criminal, no doubt about it. But yeah, it's just been so upsetting, Charlie, to watch what's been witnessed over these last few days, Charlie. It's a disgusting sight. It is a sad, disgraceful sight. At schools, 400 civilians. This is what these were. They just seen that Guardian chase. That's where people were sheltering. 2 million, 10 million people, actually, a quarter of the population, Charlie. That's 25% of Ukraine gone, have now fled their homes, Charlie. Some have actually been forced into Russia, by the way, by the Russian army, which is, I don't know why you would want to even go there, considering the fact that why would you move from Ukraine to Russia into a dick pot, really, Charlie? It really is. So there's all these missiles and weapons that the Russia's still using. We'll probably see more lethal weapons and stuff like that. Chemical weapons is rumored to be on the table for Russia, Charlie, to use, which is something that Syria uses to basically bomb and kill their population, Charlie. It's a disgusting, disgraceful tactic that could still be propped up by the Putin regime. I'm sure Assad will probably be happier to see what's going on, I don't know, in him. I mean, as Assad, propped up, Russia propped up Assad when they were at war with Syria, and now it looks like Syria is going to train its forces to prop up Russia. I mean, and Belarus in some ways. It's disgusting, Charlie, and I suspect we're not going to see the last of the false flag attacks as well. And Russia, really are pushing their limits in what they're doing, Charlie. The more false flags that they try to do, the more scenarios that they try and make up to create a bigger conflict. If, for example, if it goes into, say, Poland or any other...
it was 14 miles a missile landed the other day, just off the border in Poland.
And Lviv is now being targeted, Charlie. That's where all the broadcasters are located at the moment. Lviv is now being targeted after being also quiet throughout this conflict and war. Well, it is a war. Let's just call it what it is, Charlie. A Russian war in Ukraine. Lviv has been sort of quiet, but now the Russians have started to target areas there. They're getting closer and closer to the border of Poland. And if any bombs start hitting Poland, for example, Charlie, on missiles or weapons, then if there's any casualties, incidents, severe situations in Poland, then that's going to probably trigger an Article 5 response, Charlie, no doubt about it. I hope it doesn't get there. But I feel like Russia will keep pushing the limits, Charlie, of what it'll do. They will no doubt keep pushing it in the limits. And it's not going to be easy, Charlie. They're trying to get into to Kyiv still with a failing system, Charlie, and still a loss of their army. And I'm going to say this: as much as they try to widen their range and take over areas, it's not working. And trying to spread it out, Charlie, really isn't working for the Russians. They're struggling. They're doing badly, and no matter how many areas they try to go for, they're losing the battle, Charlie. They really are.
They are, Zach, and obviously I've got some things up here which explain it very well. Mykolaiv was one of the areas that got attacked the other day. It was on the news just here. It was actually, I think, a marine barracks area, like where the army do some training, because I watched a report the other day, I think on Sky News, of what exactly happened. But yeah, there was some soldiers sleeping, and a cruise missiles, 3 cruise missiles attacked there, and quite a few of them actually died in Mykolaiv, which actually is one of the areas as well. Also, Russia has struck Ukraine with cruise missiles from ships in the Black Sea and Caspian Sea, launched hypersonic missiles from the Crimean airspace. That was according to their defense ministry. Actually, it was Mykolaiv, Friday, killed more than 40 Marines. Horrible as well. At least 902 civilians and have been killed. 1,459 people have been injured as of midnight local time yesterday. Pope Francis has described what is happening in Ukraine as inhumane and sacrilegious, addressing tens of thousands of people in St. Peter's Square for his weekly Sunday address and blessing. He called on leaders to stop this repugnant war, as well. Repugnant, there being the word. That's been, as well. Apologies for pronunciation is on that one. As well. Also, one of Europe's largest meteorological facilities, the Astovets steel plant in Mariupol, has been destroyed by the Russians. That was according to the Ukraine's advisor interior minister on that one as well. And the Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged Israeli legislators to help protect Ukraine against the Russian invasion, drawing comparisons between the Russian offensive and the final solution, the plan by the Nazi Germany to exterminate Jews. Oh, God. I wouldn't imagine that happening in my backyard. But I mean, Zach, the question I've got to ask before we move on to the next part of the show is this talk of hypersonic missiles that Russia are using, because there's been so much debate around the world about whether Russia are going to use hypersonic missiles to target other cities. Do you see potentially Putin using this in his armory to expand his conflict even further?
Yeah, I think I read somewhere, Charlie, that they are potentially using that already as well, which is obviously quite bad and stuff like that. So Russia, I think from what I've seen, Charlie, and what I read, they have launched a second one, actually. They've actually used one already, but today I think they've launched a second one, Charlie, and it's capable of striking. It's called the Kinzhal missile, which they've called it. It's basically a type of a hypersonic missile, basically. And what it does, it basically, it's a device that what they can do with this one is capture let me put it this way, not capture, but basically capable of striking targets 1,250 miles away at a speed 10 times the speed of sound, Charlie. So yeah, it's that fast, and it's unrecognizable in some ways, and it's already been used in Mykolaiv, near the Black Sea, basically.
Mykolaiv
as well. So it's a despicable weapon, and it creates all this air as well, this dirty air which gets into your lungs and makes you it affects your lungs there. So it's a horrible device, weapon that has been used to destroy buildings, destroy buildings. It's a horrible, and frankly evil tactic that Putin will use. This is not the worst of it, Charlie, because as I said, chemical weapons don't expect to be ruled out now in Russia, as well. So yeah, it's a disgusting weapon, but it's not the worst they use. It's terrible weapon, Charlie. But they've already used these, Charlie, unfortunately, and it's a despicable tactic that the Russians use to destroy buildings and kill people with.
I know, and to see Vladimir Putin stand up in front of a packed audience at a rally in Moscow just fills me with dread that he's not over yet. It just doesn't seem like this is going to end anytime soon, I'm afraid. And obviously, I know Putin's lost. Ukraine has put up a defense. I think Ukraine will win this. My only problem is now, is Russia going to go further than this? The Baltics are at threat here, and certainly NATO will need to, in my view, stand up if Putin was to launch an attack onto their border. And Zach, what would this mean? Say you're in a position now. Say you were say I'm going to put this into perspective here for to all the listeners out there. Say for an English lesson, okay, you were asked to write a perspective down about how you'd feel as a leader being put in a position of responding to a war where an Axis country has landed on your doorstep and invaded your territory. What would be your response? And Zach, for NATO right now, if Putin was to step foot across their border, what do you think will happen?
Oh, wow. To get that in two perspectives, to break that down, Charlie, first of all, as a leader, it'll be overwhelming. It'll be terrifying. It'll feel like the last days on earth for you, because you got to make so many tough decisions and so many difficult choices, and you got to think quick as well. So it would be quite petrifying. It'd be quite stressful, and every decision you take, you feel like you take is a risk, because whatever command you give to your military and to your soldiers and to the people, the commanders on the ground and up in the air as well, it'd be hard to think what you really need to do. So yeah, it's terrifying being a leader during a war. It really would be quite something. And on NATO, on the response of NATO, if this gets into their territory, well, it's simple. Article 5, which counts as if one country is attacked, all countries, it's an attack on all countries. And there would probably be military response from multiple countries. Actually, the rest of us would have to get involved military, and it's a bad thought. But if you get the likes of Poland being attacked, then you might as well just start bringing in the no-fly zones and everything like that. As much as an escalation, you'd think, well, Russia decided to escalate it, not us. We might as well just do it. It's a terrible idea, Charlie, to bring in a no-fly zone because of the risk that could take. But if you're going to trigger Article 5, then you might as well just up the limit as well and put in the no-fly zone. It's an escalation, yes, but the Russia would have already escalated at the time. So, yeah, it would be a big escalation, Charlie, even bigger one if NATO territory is attacked and targeted.
Yeah, it's interesting because Boris Johnson kind of said that on his opening speech during the Conservative Party conference about Russia's indiscriminate invasion of Ukraine, linking that to Brexit.
That's despicable.
The Ukraine.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting, Charlie. In no way should Brexit be a reference to Ukraine, to what's happening in Ukraine. I'm sorry, whether you supported Leave or Remain, or whether you think Brexit is a good idea or not, and how successful and how unsuccessful it's been, you cannot link what Ukraine people are doing to the Brexit. Because actually, if you think about it, Ukraine have actually applied to join to be a member of the European Union. So all these Brexit references is totally wrong, number one. And number two, it's nothing like it. The Brexit people wanted sovereignty, Charlie. They wanted decision making. They're not fighting wars or anything like that. They're fighting that the Ukrainians just want a country in their own destination, and they don't want dictatorship. It's nothing like Brexit, Charlie. It is nothing like it, and it was a quite frankly crass and a remark that even Alan Partridge wouldn't come out with, Charlie. It was that stupid of a comment, of a comparison. It's not a necessary comparison, and quite frankly, I was the Ukrainian ambassador who was there at the Conservative Party conference, sitting there and listening to that. I'd be a bit embarrassed. I really would. Global Britain, it looks like global bollocks to me. So, it really does.
Yeah, I understand about the UK's response. I mean, look, all I can say is that comment was an interesting one. I don't know what Boris was thinking there as well. Let's be honest with you. Boris has had a topsy-turvy year as Prime Minister. I do think, though, the response to Ukraine has been pretty good, though. I think we were the first one of the first countries to stick sanctions on Russia, on Russian banks and oil companies as well. So we've got to take that into consideration. But as I said earlier, I think that comment was a bit interesting, I suppose, to make the statement on that. So comment down below, please, to all the listeners out there who are watching tonight. Do you think Russia will go further in terms of their attack on Ukraine? Do you think that Putin's named a special military operation? Do you think that name's feasible enough? And do you trust what the Russian president had to say during that rally? Please comment down below what you think can happen. But moving on now to the sport briefing, because we had some big motorsport news today. Finally, the return of Formula One, the new dawn for the sport. We're going for new regulations this year, 18-inch wheels, and new generation Formula One cars. And Bahrain, watching the highlights back earlier, I have to say the race was pretty dramatic. If you're Red Bull Racing, because you lost two of your drivers in the last few laps of the race, but for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari, Zach, their first win since 2019.
Well, Charlie, we started off as we left off, really, Charlie, in terms of the race finishes. I have to say, Charlie, that was quite something. The race this weekend, Charlie, that was the finish. It was brilliant. No doubt about it, Charlie. It was a fantastic race throughout, and this is what we wanted to see with these new cars, Charlie. We wanted cars that would make us race, that would make racing closer, more fun, more exciting, more level pecking, and put more into the racing into the driver's hands, but also making the cars harder as well when it needs to be. I feel like we got that this weekend, Charlie. We definitely did with the Sunday's race. And actually as well, Charlie, we got 3 teams in the mix as well on terms of performance. And it looks like at the moment it's a Ferrari that are, in terms of performance, fastest, ahead of Red Bull. We'll get onto Red Bull in a moment, and ahead of a Mercedes. Well, looking at the race, Charlie, it certainly reflected that, although it didn't finish like that, because, the ending, Charlie, was quite something. After being second best all day, and it looked like they were in contention for victory because of the safety car, because of Pierre Gasly's engine failure, it all went completely honkers dory, absolute titter-tatters for Red Bull. You know, all the glory they had in Abu Dhabi with the race ending, it was a proper 360 this week for the first race in Bahrain, Charlie. Whatever happened to the power unit, wow, it completely shot off, Charlie, at the worst possible time. To think about it, the Alpha Tauris and Red Bull being the first team to suffer the reliability issues of the weekend, Charlie, is not a good sign. And whether they're good on performance, it's finishing the races and what matter, Charlie. Let's just go through it individually. Ferrari, Wow, Charlie. I mean, think about it. We knew there were signs over the pre-season testing, Charlie, that they would have been a very consistent team, Charlie. They will look very, very promising. And that car lived up to pre-season testing. They have bought a package, Charlie. And it's surprised a few teams, Charlie. Certainly this weekend, they've looked like the best team on track in terms of performance and reliability. I mean, incredible job they've done, Charlie. Leclerc on pole. They're surprisingly fast on the Saturday. They really were eked out the performance when needed. Leclerc did. And so did Verstappen at the time. And then Sunday, those power failures, Charlie, at the end of the race for Red Bull. It really is an example. It reminds you that you just not only need speed, you need reliability. But that was a finish at the end, Charlie. What a finish, no doubt about it. That was being, he started left off. And if we're going to see 22 more races like that, then it's going to be something. So these results. It was a 1-2 for for Ferrari, Charlie.
Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah, it's their first 1-2 in how many years, Charlie? I mean, it's been ages since the last 1-2.
I think, was it Hungary 2017? I last remember.
Oh, it might have been. It might have been that one, but it's been ages since the last 1-2, Charlie. It's been ages since their last victory, and to get it with a whole, a whole 44 points in the bag, really, Charlie. 26, 18, 44. Incredible with the fastest lap, pole position, race victory is a good job. Mercedes coming behind third and fourth. Now, this is not where they expect to be. They expect to be fifth and sixth. And I have to say, the last year's Constructors Champion on the back foot ready, Charlie, is not a great sign for Mercedes. But they were there in race pace a little bit as well, Charlie. And that ending with the Red Bulls as well. Well, they've got their. It's showing a little bit of sign. I expect they might well be still off the pace in Jeddah, Charlie, in Saudi Arabia next week because of the speed of the circuit. It may well be a little bit less bumpy, but they may still be down in speed. And well, I have to say, Charlie, one of my drivers of the day and one of the most shocking and great performers, Kevin Magnussen, returning Kevin Magnussen in fifth position, has barely scored any points last season. And for the first race this season, Kevin Magnussen has got a fifth place finish. Haas are third in the Constructors' Championship after one race this season. They could barely manage 10th, Charlie, in all of 21 last season. Incredible. Another one who I think has been impressive, Valtteri Bottas. He's out of the Mercedes pressure now, Charlie. And wow, he performed very well. Qualifying was great performance. Great job overall. And sixth position, that would have been eighth had it not been for the spinning and before the breakdowns of the Red Bull. So great job by Bottas. Ocon as well, seventh position. I think you'd be reasonably pleased.
Clumsy move from Ocon, though. I have to say he did get a 5-second penalty for colliding with Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, he did. But he recovered well to finish seventh. That safety car obviously helped him. Get him up the pace. And the strategy, Charlie, 2-3 stops, 18-inch wheels and degradation. I can't pronounce that for what
degradation, yeah.
Degradation. Oh dear, I'm not pronouncing it well today. The strategies was interesting. That and Alpine's pace, seventh for Ocon, pretty impressive. Yuki Tsunoda, good job, I think, for Yuki Tsunoda, eighth position. As well, I think he's got his mojo back after struggling in the first part of last season. He's done well today, certainly for that. Alonso ninth, I think he'll be pressed. Shout out Joe Guan Yu is his name. I know it's Guan Yu. We've known him for a while as Guan Yu Joe, but it's Joe Guan Yu's official name. His first race and got a point. Very well done. Have to say as well, Charlie, very well done. Mick Schumacher, 11th position. Great job. Nearly in the points. Just showed a lack of pace and track. Mick Schumacher, 11th. Lance Stroll, 12th. Forgettable weekend for Aston Martin, really, Charlie. Probably want to have one of the worst cars of the weekend. no doubt about it. 2 teams worse. Alex Albon 13th. I think he'd be pleased with that. Alex Albon.
Yeah.
It's his first race back since 2020, and I think he'll be very pleased with the pace he's shown in that Williams. I think it's very well. Daniel Ricciardo 14th for shocking.
McLaren had a shocker.
Shocking weekend in terms of pace, Charlie. I know they had a few problems in pre-season testing with reliability, and Ricciardo being off and Rolando having to take all of Daniel's shifts, but shocking weekend for McLaren. The performance is nowhere. They seem off pace all weekend. Ricciardo 14th, Norris 15th, Nicholas Latifi 16th. Not a good race for him. Hulkenberg could have had a better weekend. Obviously, Hulkenberg is subbing for Vettel this week because he had a positive COVID test. At least he did finish. And then it's, 0 points for Red Bull on the very first race back, Charlie. Wow. 18th and 9th to 19th. And Pierre Gasly was not classified after retiring after an engine that literally caught on fire with just over 10 laps to go, creating the quite chaotic finish, Charlie, of it. But wow, we have seen the race pace already, Charlie. Ferrari looked really good, and I wouldn't be surprised they look really good as well into Saudi Arabia. Red Bull, if they can fix the reliability problems, no worries. Mercedes, it's going to take a little while, but they certainly, we have a mixed grid, Charlie, and most of the teams that are up there are certainly Ferrari powered cars, Charlie, and looks like they've made the most progress this year so far.
Yeah, I have to say that as well. It's very interesting to see the standings then. Obviously, to finish a race, you have to complete more than 75% of the race distance to be classified, or 80% of the race distance, somewhere around that. And yes, Red Bull were classified 18th and 19th in the end, albeit as DNFs, but they were classified 18th and 19th on the list there. But they did retire. Perez spun off on the final lap, which gifted Mercedes an unlikely podium at the end of the day. But also Valtteri Bottas, Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu, as many people calling him now. Alfa Romeo getting points. Haas, though, Kevin Magnussen, stellar drive from him. 5th place, despite nearly a couple of weeks ago not even being in the sport. So what a race for Haas there. Mick Schumacher unlucky in the end to finish 11th, but I have to say, best result for him in his F1 career. I hope to see more from him. And this was some of the interviews that I'm going to play for you right now. This is what some of the drivers had to say at the end of the race.
I woke up this morning hoping, it was super hope that we would have a chance to fight, have a car that's better than we think maybe, or something like that. But we did struggle in the race. But George did a great job to get a 3rd and 4th. I think it's pretty remarkable given the problems that we have. The thing is with our car, we have a car that's bouncing a lot everywhere. It's not just in a straight line. And we have very poor rear end through all the low speed corners and all the medium speed corners. The only place that it's generally quite good is relatively in the high. And then we're very slow in the straight line. So we have I don't know if it's drag or if it's power. We haven't figured that out yet, but the others, we can't keep up with them even with the DRS. So we do have a lot of work, and what that means is that you're just sliding a lot on the rear, and the tires just get hotter and hotter and degrade. So that's where we've got a lot of work to try and catch up.
I think it's a great day for the team. It's a massive day, I just need to say congratulations to everyone, to everyone back in the factory, because you cannot imagine how much hard work there's behind this result. These last 2 years, there's been a lot of struggles, a lot of suffering, and suddenly to come back with a 1-2 is something huge for Italy, for Ferrari, for all the Tifosi, for us, that we put the work in. So great day, time to celebrate, and then time to get our heads down and keep going. It's a confirmation, that this weekend hasn't been easy for me at all. I've been liking pace all weekend, except for Q2 and Q3, that I suddenly managed to do very strong laps to put myself in the fight for pole position. But it shows that I still have to understand this car, that I need to set it up maybe a bit more for my liking. I have some homework to do.
Much grown as a driver compared to my victory in 2019. 2019 felt incredible. Obviously, in Monza, it was just very, very special. But here today, everything felt a bit more under control. And it felt nice. Obviously, there were some very tense moments on track with Max after the first stop, with the safety car restart after that, but everything was managed well. and I could bring the victory home. I don't think so, but yeah, you never know. I mean, at the restart, I think I had gotten anyway.
It happened after the tires came on and I drove off. So something, it was not even that the steering wheel just got heavy. It was just almost impossible to steer. And the faster I was going, it felt also like there was like a delay. So every time I was turning right, it took a while before something was happening. And then that's when my restart was very bad because I wanted to go on throttle, but I couldn't open my wheel because it was stuck. So yeah, it was very hard out there. A lot of different issues we had to deal with, and this is of course not what you want to have. And the first race weekend, pace wasn't amazing. I think the balance was just not as good as on Friday for whatever reason, which you have to.
Cars ahead of us. I mean, obviously we made the most of it. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that race. Made a good start, getting positioned at the beginning, but we know the limitations. It was a difficult weekend, but overall a very good result. We definitely would have taken it before the weekend, the P3 and the P4 for the team, but we recognise we're a long way behind where we want to be. I don't know, to be honest. I don't think we're going to find the silver bullet soon, but I have faith that we will find it. So I think it's going to be a good couple of races before we really start unlocking some more performance from the car. But I think it's been a really positive weekend considering how many issues we have. I think realistically we're probably half a second behind in qualifying. I don't know what the average pace difference was to the front runners, but probably half a second to 7/10 again in the race. So considering how difficult the car is to drive at the moment and how much we're bouncing, it really wasn't too bad. But we're here to win. We want more.
Thank you there to all the drivers that spoke to the media there after the race. George Russell spoke, Lewis Hamilton spoke for Mercedes, Red Bulls, Max Verstappen, and then two Ferrari drivers of Charles Leclerc and also Carlos Sainz speaking to the media there after the race. So Formula One are back next weekend in Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Questions on that though regarding what's happening in Saudi Arabia as well, but we should see a race next week. That's what we're hoping for. But moving on now, I'm going to touch on NASCAR whilst we're here, because obviously there is an event this weekend and tonight at Atlanta. But last week, Zach, a shock win for Ross Chastain.
Yes, Ross Chastain was the winner after a very eventful race. The other NASCAR events on today is actually on now. I'm watching as I speak, Charlie, whilst I'm actually speaking to you. I've got this little picture-in-picture here whilst I'm speaking to you as well. Ross Chastain, though, winning in Phoenix in what was, pretty shock victory, to be fair, Charlie. Got on in the last couple of laps and won the race. Managed to get through the field, win on the last couple of laps. And won the race. It was a good job by Ross Chastain. Overall, Charlie, a great job for him as well. Overall, Charlie, and it was quite.
Oh no, sorry, it was Chase. Apologies, it was Chase Briscoe that won. Ross Chastain was second.
Sorry, yeah, Chase Briscoe was the one that got through. Ross Chastain was the one that finished behind. That's probably what you're thinking of.
Ross Chastain finished second. Yeah, apologies.
Great moves overall. Chase Briscoe was the winner. I think that's Chase Briscoe's second. Oh no, that's not. Maybe it's not. No, sorry, that's not Chase Briscoe's second win of the season. And I was thinking of Austin Cindric.
Cindric in Daytona.
Yeah. So that's Chase Briscoe's victory in the 14. Once held by Tony Stewart. Ross Chastain was second. As well, Ross Chastain was second, Tyler Reddick was third, Ryan Blaney was fourth, and I think it was Kurt Busch in the fifth position ahead of Harvick in sixth.
Kurt Busch.
Yeah, Kurt Busch in fifth, Harvick sixth, Kyle Busch seventh, Joe Logano was eighth at that race as well. Chase Elliott was on it. Eric Almirola was 10th as well. It was a good, decent race. Probably one of the sort of less good quality race of the season, but cars are providing excitement, Charlie. And as I speak, they are currently racing now at Atlanta. By the way, on a new Atlanta, Charlie, because the whilst I'm watching here as well, the layout is completely different, Charlie. The layout is it's the same mileage, but they've changed it. They've put a new racing surface. They put some new bankings, and they've changed the package of the actual rules package, where it's like the Daytona and the Talladega rule package. So now at Atlanta, we get proper track, like pack racing, like at the super speedways. And I have to say, Charlie, it's very exciting. It creates a lot more eventful racing. It's incredibly epic to watch, actually, Charlie, to be fair. 2 wide, sometimes 3 wide in some corners as well. But it created something where, grip is low in some areas, but it's also making the drivers hard, make them really work during the corners. But it's slower, but it's better to race at, Charlie, from what I'm reviewing as well. Christopher Bell is currently leading. I believe they are on lap 13 of stage 2 at the moment. So Christopher Bell is the leader at the moment. And that's at lap 13 at the moment. Bubba Wallace is 3rd. I think that's Austrian Cendric 2nd at the moment, Charlie.
Yeah.
They've just patted out as well whilst I'm watching this as well. They're coming on to lap 15 of stage 2 right now. They've just gone past the finish line as I'm watching. So, yeah, still a while to go in that race, but it's Christopher Bell that is currently leading the race at the moment.
Yes, also as well, we had some other races at the weekend. We had the Nally Cars 250, which was the Xfinity race that took place. I actually watched some of the highlights of the Xfinity race. Ty Gibbs winning that one ahead of ahead of another driver there. That was Austin Hill 2nd and AJ Allmendinger 3rd. And I have to say, there was a couple of cautions. One caution, in fact, finished off one of the stages.
Yeah, it was an eventful finish for Ty. I managed to watch most of the Xfinity race. It was eventful. The final stage was certainly eventful, Charlie. I think we got about 4 or 5 cautions throughout that, Charlie, because it was pretty eventful, and there was several crashes throughout, Charlie, during that one. And it was an eventful race, Charlie, no doubt about it. But it results in Ty Gibbs winning the race. And I think on overtime as well, Charlie.
It was on overtime, yeah.
On overtime, ahead of Austin Hill and AJ Allmendinger. It was a good race. And it provided that pack race in this circuit does work. Using at the new Atlanta, Charlie. It provides some good racing. Next week, Charlie, when Atlanta is done, they are going to be off to the Circuit of America. It's going to be the first road course race of the season. Road course racing is very eventful, Charlie. It's a lot more, even more unpredictable. Strategy is going to be interesting. Expect a few cautions, and maybe even a bit of wet weather racing, Charlie. In Texas sometimes it could be sunny, it could be overcast. It may result in wet weather racing because that's the only road courses, the only races that we get where they can actually race on the wet. So, I'm looking forward to that, Charlie. It'll be next Sunday, after all the clocks have changed, by the way, because all the clocks are changing next week on Sunday. Yeah. It's also Mother's Day, by the way, as well. Just thought prop that out there as well. So next week is the first road course race, Charlie, and it's going to be eventful.
Yeah, I'll quickly go over the Camping World Truck Series results as well. Corey Heem finished first in the number 51 Toyota. Second went the way of Ben Rhodes, who was driving the number 99 Toyota, and the number 66 Toyota with Ty Madejski, third there in the other race in the Camping World Truck Series race as well. So next week, 27th of March, Mother's Day weekend, Echo Park Automotive Texas Grand Prix as well. Also the Xfinity Head to COTA, and also the Truck Series Head to COTA as well. We have a blockbuster lineup of racing next weekend as well. Also as well, guys, IndyCar also took their IndyCar racing right now, I believe. Charlie. They've actually finished.
Yeah.
And Joseph Newgarden won from Scott McLaughlin.
Yeah, what a finish. Joseph Newgarden won by 6/100th of a second on a last lap of last corner pass, Charlie. Oh, that was a stunning finish. 0.0669, the overall margin of victory for Newgarden, who passed Scott McLaughlin, denying him a second victory on the very last lap of the very last corner. McLaughlin led pretty much all the race, Charlie, and then Newgarden managed to do a nice bit of chasing down the pack, Charlie, and what a finish it was, Charlie! Incredible stuff by Newgarden. McLaughlin could have got his second straight victory of the season had it been for that, not been for that last corner where Newgarden won. It was incredible as well. A few incidents in the race overall, Charlie, and I'll give you, for example, Alexander Rossi, Grosjean, Kyle Kirkwood, Devin DeFrancio, all having issues today, Charlie, as well. So did Christian Lundgaard, who had an issue near to the end of the race, got into the wall. So did incidents to Clarko, Felix, Rosecliff, Graham Rahal, Helio Castaneras as well. So eventful race, Charlie, with several cars crashing out. But it was Newgarden with that last lap pass, Charlie, and last corner pass to win the IndyCar race at Texas.
Yep, I'll go over the standings quickly now. Joseph Newgarden finishing first in the Chevrolet Penske. Scott McLaughlin second. Marcus Ericsson third. Will Power fourth. That is in the Team Penske there. Scott Dixon fifth. Jimmy Johnson, shout out to him, sixth place. Seven-time, one of three NASCAR, seven-time NASCAR champions. Certainly suits oval racing. Sixth place,
does.
well done to you. Seventh place, Alex Palau. Eighth, Simon Pagenaud. Ninth, Santino Ferrucci. Decent result. Renus VK 10th. Best of the rookies, David Malukas 11th on that one as well. So plenty of that action there as well.
Can I add as well, Charlie? Obviously, Ferrucci was standing for Jack Harvey today, I believe, who was not racing on medical advice today because I believe he had a bit of a crash in practice. A rather heavy crash in practice, Charlie, that forced him out of the race. So it was Ferrucci that basically stood in for Jack Harvey. There's the 12 hours of Sebring, I think you got up there as well, Charlie.
Yeah.
I was gonna see about that as well. This was the I think there's a double header, Charlie, of IMS and WC. And let me go over the results actually as well. Oh, here we go. As well, let me find the results. It was Ed Bamber that was the overall victory ahead of Christian Walter and Mike Conway as well. Ricky Taylor was fourth. Tom Blomqvist was fifth, and Kamil Kobayashi as well was sixth. And I think it was in the 1,000 miles of Sebring. Let me go. Give me a second here. As well. Oh, where did he finish? I can't find the finish. It was Alpine that was one. Actually, it was Alpine that won. Actually,
yeah.
It was Nicholas Lapierre, Matthew Vaxivier, and Andrew Negro who won the first race this evening in the hypercar category. The Toyota was in his second position as well. There was quite a nasty crash at one point, Charlie. I saw.
Yeah, I saw that on my friend Jack sent me that actually as well.
It was a very nasty.
One of the Toyotas flipped over.
Yeah, Toyota flipped over because of previous contact, lost all steering, went straight for the tyre barrier. It's not concrete, well, it's a tyre barrier. So the car was managed to launch on that, and unfortunately flip over the car as well. It was a heavy impact, Charlie. They came out okay, thankfully, as well. But it's Alpine who won the 1,000 miles of Sebring there as well.
Yeah, indeed it is. Wow, plenty of motorsport action there for this weekend. We'll round it up all again next week. And just realised the time. I keep thinking we've got a show to get on with. So, yes, Charlie's good news now. Quick little brief recap on Charlie's good news this week. The Apprentice interview stage hitting, and it means Harpreet and Catherine are the only ones left in it. Claude Littner returned to our interviews this time round. Gave Brittany a grilling. Interview terminated. on that one. But yes, 2 candidates getting fired, Zach, in the interviews.
Oh, they're never nice on the interviews, Charlie. Let's just say that. And rightly so. You're not. This is for business, Charlie. You're not here to be nice and everything like that. Claude was back as usual with an absolute grillings of some certain candidates. Brittany was one of them. I have to say, Charlie. Interview terminated indeed, as you did. Got about about a minute or two into the interview, it went horribly for Brittany. In that was a very horrible horrible interview in that as well, Charlie, for Brittany. And he got 2 minutes. She got 2 minutes into it, got absolutely demolished, and the interview was terminated. That's how it goes with Claude, Charlie. No BS with him, or as you really are in trouble. But it's like the Russian ambassador being summoned to the foreign office and then being kicked out. That's what it's like with Claude, really. Really. So the ones that gone through. All right, let me go through this if I remember their names, because I can't actually always remember.
Harpreet and Catherine.
Harpreet and Catherine are the two girls that are left in this process, Charlie, where they're going to be showcasing their business to more of the general public now, Charlie. They're going to bring back old team members as well to promote their business. They're going to be pitching to investors as well. And then it'll be up to Lord Sugar to decide the winner of The Apprentice and hire a new person and a £250,000 investment in them as well, Charlie. It'll be I think it's on next week, Charlie. As well. Yes, it is on next week. They have 3 days to pitch and launch their company and see if they can get the investment from Lord Sugar. It's a very important day, Charlie, no doubt about it. It'll be on Thursday, the upcoming week on Thursday, Charlie. It is a big week for those two, Charlie. It really is going to be a big week.
Yeah, and as well, Amy will not be in the final episode. One of the candidates who got fired earlier on in the process, she is not going to be on it because she said things about Lord Sugar that were not the most appropriate. So she will not be taking part in the final of the show. Now, staying with Charlie's good news, I just want to give you a quick update because the weather is getting warmer this week. I thought I'd say this. Spring is finally going to be coming. There is actually some good news here because it says on here, guys, that Britain is set to bask in early morning sunshine. Yes, temperatures are due to surge next week. On Monday, tomorrow, there will be a chilly start to the day, but temperatures should reach around 13 to 14 degrees in the afternoon with highs of around 16 to 17 degrees expected for Tuesday. There is also rumours going around that temperatures could surge into the high teens next week, kick-starting spring. Also rumours of around a 28-degree heat wave next month. So if you are planning a trip to the beach next month, watch this space carefully. But all you're going to say, guys, is the weather is certainly getting warmer by the minute. That's my little announcement. Please tune in to watch the Met Office or BBC Weather if you want to listen to any of the latest weather forecasts. At the moment, all I can say is tomorrow, it's going to start getting warmer. So, yeah, now it's time for the final part of the show where we review the papers. Now, we'll keep you updated if any of tomorrow's papers do come in, which, of course, is Monday's. I'm now going to go over Sunday's national newspapers. Let's have a look into them. So, we're going to start, whilst we're here, with the Sunday Times, which has gone with a headline. Up here, Ukraine battle is like Brexit. Prime Minister tells party. We covered that earlier on the show, actually. So it'd be very interesting. Also, officials failed to challenge P&O firings. Yes, there's been plenty of sackings down at P&O ferries as well. The Independent leads on Mr. Johnson's warning the UK's relationship with Russia cannot be normalised without a new leader. The Daily Star goes for guests as at Britain's most haunted hotel are being sent a warning as they check in the Daily Star claims, Room with a Woo, and also Crazy Putin's new terror missile on the Daily Star. The Sunday Telegraph goes, Johnson frustrated with Sunak over nuclear. Also, fall of Mariupol imminent as Russians block access to sea. Sunday Express goes, now Putin unleashes invincible missile. Depost lashes out at Ukraine war stalls. Prime Minister says the world must fight for freedom. The Observer says, Fury greets Prime Minister's claim that Ukraine fight is like Brexit as well. Also a picture of a Russian hospital there saying that, or Ukrainian hospital, sorry, they said they told me to come and protect us. Ordeal of Russia's sniper victims as well. So what do you make to the latest headlines?
Yeah, interesting bit of front pages, Charlie. Let's go to the top and we'll start there. Let's start with the Sunday Times, actually. Ukraine, this is the rather repulsive, they lead with a rather repulsive comparison of the Ukraine battle as being like Brexit, Charlie. Well, yeah, he's wrong because the Brexit battle was getting taken back control from an unelected bureaucrat, according to those who are actually supporting the Brexit and all that, and getting back control of the sovereignty, the laws, borders, money, all that. The UK one, Charlie, is all about basically winning a war against a dictator who wants to take over control of their country for no good reason, unfortunately, and just to wage war on defense forces, on other neighboring countries, and just doesn't like a person who basically lives in past life, Charlie. So that's really what this is all about. It's nothing to do with Brexit. It's a distasteful comparison anyway, Charlie, and it's got nothing to do with what the Prime Minister is compared to. It's really silly about it as well. Let's go down, actually, Charlie, because I'm very interested in what the Independent is. There must be no way back for Putin. Obviously, this is what reference to what the Prime Minister said in his Tory party conference in Blackpool. This is like a spring getaway for the Tory party. I didn't know. I wasn't even aware that it was there was a spring conference going on, Charlie, to be honest, until a couple of days ago, really. To be so surprising. I would normally follow these things, so surprising. So to me, to find out that was happening was a bit, okay, as well. He's basically said in this one, in his speech today, obviously about the atrocities in Russia. He's obviously criticizing about Putin, basically saying that obviously until Russia get a new leader, who knows when, there can't be a reset with Russia. And even I have to say, Charlie, even if say Russia do get a new leader, will they continue the legacy of Putin and want to continue what he's done, or do they want to go for something a little bit different? Who knows, Charlie? I don't think it's just easy as resetting relations, Charlie, and being okay as well on this. Russia has to change fundamentally as a country, Charlie. Their leaders have to change. The ideas have to change. If they ever want to be welcome to the international community again, otherwise they're just going to be an isolated country again, Charlie. I'm afraid, because of what they're doing. Let's look at the Daily Star, because they've got humorous things as well. They've got a really, I don't even know what this is, a room with a woo. This is a ghost warning as you check into the most haunted hotel in Britain. I presume that I don't know what the scariest hotel in Britain is. They've dressed some woman as a ghost by the looks of it on there. Is it? I presume it's some sort of crap hotel or something that's actually haunted in Britain. I have to say, the fact that they've already got this on the front page make me not want to know any more details about it anymore, really, to be fair. So we can always skip that front page as it is, Charlie, because that,
crazy Putin's new terror missile.
Yeah, there's obviously they've obviously talked about the hypersonic missiles that they've launched as well, which have been hissed in cities such as Mariupol and Odyssey as well. Yeah, it's called their destructive plans as well. Johnson, the Sunday Telegraph, Johnson frustrated with nuclear. I presume this is the fact. Is this to do with the fact over the nuclear power stations as well, Charlie. I mean, this is back to
Yes, that, yeah.
Nuclear power stations, Charlie.
Yeah,
with
you're right.
what
That,
they're
yeah,
doing
it is.
there. What he basically mentioned is the Treasury is hesitant to invest into some new nuclear power stations, Charlie. This is sort of goes into the green agenda idea, Charlie, that the Prime Minister wants to push as well. And one of the areas where the Prime Minister sees to get into the net zero is to rely on nuclear power rather than obviously coal and everything like that. This goes sort of some nuclear power instead that brings more cleaner energy up into the air. Now, there's been a lot of frustration because it seems to be get more public resistance, Charlie. But Boris Johnson is frustrated because the Treasury is not funding for this, Charlie, as much as Boris Johnson wants to. Keep an eye out this week, Charlie, because on Wednesday there's going to be the spring statement from the Chancellor of the Exchequer. We're going to find out details about what financial measures are going to come up in the next couple of months. One thing don't expect to see is new money to cover the cost of living crisis, Charlie. A terrible idea if that's true from the Chancellor to sit on his knees and wait until everything's expensive again and then just decide to intervene at that point. You might as well do it early and everything like stuff like that. So yeah, a bit of a issue there. Keep out of the details for that on Wednesday.
Is that the budget? I'm guessing.
It's kind of like a budget. I think it's a spring statement, Charlie. I think this is. I'm not sure it's classed as a budget, but I don't know. It's a spring statement according to this, Charlie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a spring statement. From what I'm reading as well, Charlie, he's going to come up with some policies. The OBS, the Office Budget Prospect, is going to come up to new economic forecasts. And expect some grim figures out of that, Charlie. I expect some grim figures in terms of inflation-wise as well. Sunday Express now pushing unleashing invincible missile. Obviously, this is the hypersonic missile as well that Fast and Speed Light is referring to as well. That he's putting on there, and I expect Charlie's going to get worse and worse with the missiles that he chooses as well. The Observer goes for obviously the same reference as well, Charlie. That the Prime Minister made to Brexit and Ukraine. Again, as I said, Charlie, it's nothing like it as well, I'm afraid. It's nothing like what was said, Charlie. As I said before, Ukraine is fighting against a war against another country. The UK was more about getting sovereignty from another country, from a pack, basically. Nothing to do with Ukraine. Again, it was a crush remarks as well. Not much new pages come out tomorrow at the moment, Charlie. I'm just refreshing. Oh yeah, okay. There's a few here, Charlie. There's two actually that come out tomorrow. The Financial Times has released their paper tomorrow. It says sheltering civilians bombed as fierce fighting grips Mariupol. This is obviously talking about the fact that the bombs have gone off in Mariupol and continue shelling there, Charlie. They're now starting to hit shelters where people are going to flee from these bombs. And they've also mentioned the fact that they've also used strikes to school as well, which have been used as a refuge, Charlie. It's this cruel bombing as well. And the other front page as well, Charlie, the Independent have gone for Sunak rewrites budget as cost of living crisis grows. This is an exclusive where the Sunak's ordered some last minute changes to the spring statement on Wednesday as well. The expectation is that we may get some relief in businesses and VAT potentially, maybe even a cut to fuel duty, Charlie, where, as you were aware, there's been rising fuel prices, Charlie, throughout the UK, no doubt about it, as well. And those costs have absolutely shot up, no doubt about it, Charlie, as well. So it may be best if, cut the VAT, cut the fuel relief as well, so that those petrol prices start to come down a little bit on a temporary basis, because the costs are pretty unbearable at the moment, Charlie. But we're going to find out the details on Wednesday about that, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I thought I'd just update the listeners very quickly on the headlines you mentioned, Zach. So I'm just going to get them up now for you. I do apologise that we have slightly overrun tonight, but
great.
that's entirely fine. we are still on time. Don't worry, guys. As well, tomorrow's papers today. I do have a couple of papers that are up. So here we go. Tomorrow's paper Zach, you said on the Independent there. Sunak rewrites budget as the cost of living crisis grows. Chancellor under pressure to act in energy and fuel bills. That is one of the only papers released as well. And also the other one was to do with the situation in Russia as well. And also the Scottish Daily Mail going for Rishi, my mission to slash your tax. Another paper as well. The Sunday People also went with Dr. Hugh as well. And yeah, there were some other papers as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my goodness! Tipped to the next Doctor Who. Oh my goodness me! So they're going to change the gender again. For goodness sake, Charlie. Ugh. Another gender doctor. We're going to transition to a male doctor again. I'm going to go mad. Honestly, I hate it last time when they changed it to a female doctor for the sake of doing it. I'm going to change it to the gender of the doctor again. I'm going to go mad, honestly, Charlie, if they do that sort of thing again. I really am going to go mad.
Yeah, it is interesting. Now it's time to move on to the Great British Star and Red Devil of the Week. Now, we've got a couple of nominations. I'm going to start with the Great British Star nomination whilst I'm here. And I'm going to give it to, well, can I just say, this nomination is someone who has, I think, fought very hard. I'm actually going to give my nomination this week to Volodymyr Zelensky, who visited a hospital this week to speak to people who have been wounded during the war in Ukraine. If it wasn't for him, Ukraine right now would be suffering. And also as well, I have to give another nomination to, and I have to say as well, Kevin Magnussen deserves a nomination for the Great British Star this week as well. Because Kevin Magnussen put up probably one of the best drives of his career in a Haas, only after coming back from Formula One just over for like 2 years to finish 5th or in the top 10 was amazing. So well done to him in that respect. My Red Devil of the Week, well, I've got two actually. Surprises, one of them's a surprise, maybe not a surprise to many of you. My first nomination is going to obviously be Vladimir Putin for that war rally. Oh my God, why would you hold a war rally praising a special military operation when in fact it's more of a massacre in Ukraine? And I also have to give it to the Russian ambassador to the UN as well for an absolute gaffe of a press conference he had in front of the United Nations. I mean, have you not seen that? Please go and check it out, because he refused to condemn the invasion of Ukraine. Zach, what did you make to the latest nominations?
I certainly agree with them, Charlie. No doubt about that. I certainly agreed with all your nominations, really, to be fair. I mean, yeah, it's the correct nominations. Right, let me get to my ones, Charlie, because I got two this week. The first one for the British Star, two for the British Star this week. I'm going to give it to the... I'm actually going to give it to a woman, actually, Charlie, who did the brave thing this week, Charlie. Incredible bravery. Who went on state TV, Great Crash State TV this week on Russia with a site during the news.
Yes, I remember that, yes.
Saw that saying, no war, stop the war. It said, the sign said, stop the war, don't believe propaganda, they're lying to you here. Incredibly brave woman who gate crashed and the news broadcast on the state TV channel 1 proper gate crashed whilst the female was reading the news bulletin, and she's one of the producers there for a long time, decides to gate crash the bulletin with the sign. Incredible bravery, Charlie.
I would have said that as well. Yeah, wow.
Incredible bravery. She did get some prison time. She got away, I believe, with the equivalent of a $200 fine, actually, Charlie. She got fined 30,000 rubles, which is equivalent to $200. Quite a light fine, actually.
15 years in prison. Oh, God. For something like that, for telling the truth.
She's not at that stage yet. I'm surprised she didn't get 15 years, apparently, but this is her first time offence. So it's a $200 fine as well. The second one I'm going to give Charlie to as well. I can't get it up. I can't where I found this, but I'm going to get this. I can't get this up because this disappeared or something. I did note it down, but it disappeared again. I'm going to give it to an Italian school, Charlie. I can't remember what the name of it, but this Italian school decided to welcome 2 Ukrainian students, who's refugees, Charlie, to an Italian school. They've refugeed to Italy, Charlie, and they've been welcomed in an Italian school. And the first thing, what happened with these 2 new students, Charlie, these Ukrainian students, right? Okay, they got a round of applause, Charlie, for the they got a round of applause by the whole of the school, Charlie. There was people waiting out, standing at the entry, and the whole school just started clapping these Ukrainian students who are new and are probably refugees, Charlie, to school for the first time. And honestly, it was quite heartwarming, Charlie. I can't show you because I don't know where I'll put it, but it was very heartwarming. And yeah, it was brilliant. It was so heartwarming. The Red Devils, Charlie. Well, there's a few. I'm going to give first one to Boris Johnson for the crass comparison for the Ukrainian reference to Brexit, because it's just disgusting, Charlie. It was pretty awful and everything like that. I think that's going to be the Red Devil of the week for me, Charlie. Certainly for Boris Johnson as well. Who else? I mean, Vladimir Putin, you could just give this out on a weekly occasion, Charlie, until he stops this war. As well, certainly is a contention as well for that slot as well. So I'm going to give it to it's incredible. I'm linking 2 people on here as well, Charlie, as well. Certainly Vladimir Zelensky. Sorry, not Vladimir Zelensky. Sorry, I will never put him as Red Devil as well. Certainly Vladimir Putin, Boris Johnson, and do you know what, Charlie, as well? I'm going to put a third because I forgot to mention this person a few weeks ago, Charlie. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to also give a third Red Devil to John Bercow, the former Speaker of the House of Commons that I did really like when he was actually appearing on the cameras and doing his good work in Tom. And turns out he's a bit of a bully behind the scenes, Charlie, because there was a report came out the other week that did 21 offensive complaints that was put against him was upheld for bullying against him. It turns out the report called him a serial bully. He's been banned for giving a parliamentary pass for much of the good work he did in the Speaker's chair. Charlie, it turns out you can be a bit of an idiot, Charlie, overall. So yeah, John Bercow, Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin, all in the Red Devils this week, and the Italian school and the protester is the great British stars of the week, Charlie.
Thank you, Zach. I do apologise. We have run out slightly over time. So there's loads of motorsport news to mention about earlier. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again next weekend for another podcast. Take care. Goodbye.